Cinematic VR Crash Course.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to another tutorial of the Cinematic VR Crash Course. Today we are going to address some final problems on our image, and this will include cleaning out the tripod, cleaning out the lights and the lines in our ceiling, and we're going to place a title. And of course, what we saw in our final edit is that we have some glitches in our right eye of our image, and that was due of a recording problem, so we are going to clean that out too. Okay, so let's get to it. Please note that this workflow, which is based on Photoshop and Premiere, is compositing in its most basic form. I use this workflow for now because it's really easy to learn and shows the process of cleaning out certain parts of the image really well. It has some limitations though, but this lesson is only for illustrative purposes. There are software tools which offer way faster workflows for jobs like this and also create overlays which adapt to lighting and surroundings. You can translate this workflow to any other visual effects software tool, so use this in your advantage. We're going to start by making a screenshot of our over-under image. And you can do that by clicking the export frame button. You want to export it as a TIFF, so choose the right destination and click OK. And what we also want is, of course, a frame of these weird glitches and click OK. You can go ahead and open the images in Photoshop. I already did that. And the first thing we're going to do is separate the left from the right eye. And you can do that by creating a guide layout. And you want 2 rows. So in this way I can select my top part of the image. And I'm going to copy this and go to File, New, and then choose from Clipboard. And then copy. So now we have created our left eye. I'm going to delete my background. Save this one and call it left eye. And do the same for the right eye, of course. Okay, so once you've done that, you can go to the left eye, and we are going to add a spherical map on top of this, a spherical panorama. So go to 3D, spherical panorama, and new panorama layer from selected layers. And this will enable the 360 viewer that we have already seen in Premiere and Mystica. And we're going to use it to clean this part out of the image. And this spherical map is a new feature in Photoshop, so it's possible that it's still a bit buggy. We're going to create a non-destructive workflow, so double click the spherical map and add a layer, and this will add a layer on top of our smart object. So later on, when we replace our overlay, we still have our source footage. Okay, so just save that and let it be, and go to the left eye, and we are going to select the part that we are going to clean out. Make sure you have some overlap around the tripod because you're going to need it. Copy this, create a new layer and paste it on top. So as you can see, I've just cut that out of my original footage. And in this new layer, you want to use the spot healing brush tool, and you can use it by just clicking and go over the part that you want to have fixed. Right now it automatically fills in and it's content aware, so as you can see it already does a wonderful job. I'm going to do the cable too, and now we only need to fix some minor issues, and we can do that by using this clone stamp tool. And here we go. So you can adjust this as much as you like, of course, but for now, this is only for illustrational purposes, so I'm happy and pleased with this. Of course, we still see some minor issues, but for now it doesn't matter. So now we have created this layer, I want to merge this down on top of our source footage. Merge it down. And now what we see, if we double click the spherical map again, you see that it adds in our new layer our overlay of the cleaned image. And this is wonderful, of course. Now we have this overlay that we can use to patch our initial top-bottom image. If I copy our patch and go to our original image and paste it there, we can just drag it on top of our left eye and it will perfectly fit our left eye. So that's wonderful, of course. And since our footage is monoscopic down at the floor, since we only had like 2 cameras and not a monoscopic setup on the floor, stereoscopic, excuse me, you can just duplicate this one and also paste it onto the right eye. And this will perfectly patch our tripod. So we are left with some other issues, and the first one we are going to address is the glitch. So we're going to open our glitch file. Here we have it. And I want to copy this. I want to copy it on top of my background. And what I want to do is make a selection of the glitch and copy the image of the original footage. So I want to select this part and paste it on top so we don't have to worry about the glitching anymore. So go ahead and make a selection with the polygonal lasso tool. Select all around. And again, this is only the right eye, so we only need to do this in our right eye. And use this selection on our background. So copy and then paste it as a new layer on top. So if I close it down, now we've pasted our bottom patch for both our left and right eye, and we have fixed our glitching issues. So we can delete our glitch now, our glitch layer. And the final thing that we need to do is the ceiling. Go to the left eye, and here we are going to do the same as we did for our tripod, but now for the ceiling. So the process is exactly the same, and I'm going to speed it up. And you can of course create a patch that is much more detailed than I'm going to do. Like I said, this is only for illustrational purposes to show you the workflow. Don't forget to open the spherical map and add another layer for your ceiling part. Alright, so this looks perfect, and we can copy this layer on top of our original footage. So this will be the left part. We do have stereoscopic information in our ceiling, so we need to redo this step for the right eye individually. Again, I'm going to speed it up. We can copy the layer, but now of course on top of our right eye. So now we have our patch that is complete, but there's still one last thing left that we want to adjust, and that's the hard edge. And this way you can see the patch really easily in your video. So what I'm going to do is just feather the edges a little bit so it won't be that visible anymore later on. I'm going to just use the eraser tool and use a really low hardness. Export it and head back to Premiere. I'm going to import our patch and drag it on top of our high quality edit. And as you can see, if I turn this on and off, you see what it does. We got rid of the glitch, we got rid of the lights, we got rid of the lines, and of course we got rid of the tripod. Now the last thing that we want to add is the title on top of our video. And so if I go out of the VR viewer and go to my essential graphics panel, I can create a new text layer. I'll just give it the name April. And if we look at it right now in our viewer, you see that it's distorted. It doesn't work the way it should. Even if I place it a bit more up, you see that the title is distorted around a sphere. And we want the title to be looking flat, just like it would be in a 2D video. So you can use an effect called the VR plane to sphere. And if you add the effect on top of your title, it undistorts the title, and it also gives you a couple of options to play with. First of all, we want to adjust the frame layout. We want it to be stereoscopic. So if you do that, you can see that the title duplicates itself in the left and the right eye. So that's awesome, of course, and we can change the scale. So we can increase that a little bit, and we want to have the position in the default place. And now what we want, if we want to adjust the position of this title, we can do that easily by using the effect rotate sphere that I've used before. Again, set the frame layout to stereoscopic, and now you can pan and tilt your effect the way you want it. So now you have full control over your title. But the last thing I'm going to show you right now, if we go to our VR video settings and set it to Anaglyph, the Anaglyph will show you the disparity between the left and right eye. And as you can see, it creates this red and green effect in your video, and that shows the offset between the left and right eye. But something that doesn't have that red and green disparity is our title. And of course, we wanted to place it in a depth in our video. In order to do that, you can adjust the stereo disparity of your VR plane to sphere effect and increase that a little bit. You can review that in a VR headset and check where you want to place your title, of course, in depth. So 1 is fine for me. As you can see, the disparity really looks a lot like my disparity in the window. That means that it will be on the same depth as our window right here. So that's perfect for me right now. Alright, so now we have created our high quality edit. We got rid of a lot of issues. We've created a title, and now we want to export it. So go to File, Export, Media. And here in the export settings, we can adjust a lot. And for some people, it is a real maze. But if you get used to all the different settings, it becomes really easy. And we want to export our master file, or the file that will be encoded to a different format later on to be played back in a VR headset. And this master file should be in the highest possible resolution with the highest possible render quality. So the format will be either QuickTime, and I'm working on a Windows workstation at the moment, so I'm going to use either AVI or QuickTime. And if I would be working on a Mac, I would use the ProRes settings, but for now QuickTime with the GoPro Cineform presets are almost equal to the Apple ProRes settings. So the video codec is Cineform, and we should turn on the quality to the highest possible. Check our width and our height, which is 4K by 4K. Frame rate is 59.94. These are all fine. We need square pixels, render at maximum depth. And of course we want to inject some metadata. So tick this box, video is VR and frame layout is stereoscopic over under. Use maximum render quality, and you can now give it an output name. I will export it to our editing exports and call this April 01.mov. And what you can do now is queue it, and the media encoder will export it. Okay, so now it's set in our queue, in our render queue. You can press the play button and it will render. It will take some time, of course, and we'll come back with the right encoding settings that you can use to play it back in a VR headset. A final step that I almost forgot to tell you about is adjusting the colors of your video. Depending on what kind of settings you've used, your video might look a bit pale. That's why it is very important to perform color grading to add back some brightness and intensity. Color grading is standard practice in professional video editing, so we won't be covering this in detail. Alright, so now we have our stereoscopic master file. We have to encode it to a format that will be playable in a VR headset. The H.264 codec is the most used codec for VR videos, but it has resolution limitations. You won't be able to export a 4K by 4K video with the H.264 codec. You end up with two options. Either render it in a lower resolution, like UHD, which is 3840 by 2160, or encode it to H.265, the successor of H.264. This codec supports higher resolutions and will make your files a whole lot smaller. Keep in mind though that not all video players and platforms support this new codec yet. If you're not sure about which encoding setting you should use, I can really recommend you reading our blog, which describes the best encoding settings for VR video in detail. Also, we have a tool called the VR encoder, which will make your life a whole lot easier. You just import your high quality master file and click the desired output. It will then automatically encode your files to the right format for playing it back on a platform that you'd like to use. If you're not fond of a tool like this, you can also encode manually using Ffmpeg. We have created a cheat sheet where you'll find all the commands that you need in order to encode your video in a manual way. Have fun with it. It's free of charge, and if you have feedback, please let us know. Now you've got a polished piece of cinematic VR content, you're ready for distribution. But how can you actually distribute this content to various VR headsets? This is what we will cover in the next and final lesson of the Cinematic VR Crash Course. See you there!